definitely appreciate you taking the time, coming on a Friday. I'm just put it out there as a Black male teacher as well. You know, you're rare, unfortunately. And, people need to know that, we got brilliant educators out here doing the work
Hmm.
and, that look like you. And I think that's important to showcase as well.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, thank you. All right, so tell us about your implementation journey and how you adapted to make it a success.
So my first year of teaching, we were implementing IM at my first network. And I'll say that the first thing that they let us all know was that you need to make sure that you have a growth mindset with this curriculum, whether you are a veteran, whether you're brand new, because there's so much packed into this curriculum and it's very, very, very enriching. We need to make sure that y'all are able to present students with what they deserve. And I'll never forget, it was one of the lessons in Unit 2 on proportional relationships. I was teaching about the constant of proportionality and what the constant looks like on a graph. And my instructional coach came into the classroom and she was observing me. And she just looked very befuddled the entire time I was presenting the information to the students. I pulled her to the side after class had concluded and I asked her what was that confusion about, like what was going on. And she mentioned to me that quite a few teachers were having some difficulties with properly implementing the curriculum and that I missed like key moments for students to be able to access different parts of the activities as well as summarizing the entire lesson. She said, I summarized it, but I didn't summarize it in the best way possible. And so we sat down and we discussed ways to properly lesson plan for illustrative maths curriculum. And I took all that information, implemented it, and fast forward 3 years later, I actually led a professional development for a new teacher week with new teachers. And I did a mock lesson for IM and I showed them what a lesson would feel like and the correct questions to ask, how I found like the information for the questions to ask within the curriculum. And I also answered any questions they might have had because there were definitely questions that I had that first year of implementing the curriculum myself. And the teachers went forth and felt way more confident. Of course, there was still a lot to learn throughout the duration of that school year because, again, it's just so rich and it's just so packed. And you really want to make sure that students get the absolute best. And what was so interesting about that experience was that even a few of the teachers, the new teachers who were fully trained adults who had college degrees, were confused by some of the curricular like questions. And I think at that moment, I realized that the beauty in IM is that individuals have a comfort zone. IM places them right outside of that comfort zone. And it's so important to be in that uncomfortableness in order to grow as much as possible and to be a more well-rounded student as well as adult in that case. And so, yeah, it's been a really interesting journey. I would say it started off really rough, but then eventually it smoothed out. And I'm in a really comfortable place now where I feel like I could look at any IM lesson, go in front of the students, present it, and feel really confident.
Such a great story. And it's just making me think about like your statement about being uncomfortable. And, we spend so much time, I think, and energy as educators trying to make our students feel comfortable. Like, it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna work out, and um, I've heard the statement, I think it was Lacey Robinson who said, sometimes we love them dumb, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
we, we, try to coddle them and, support them and add this scaffold and that scaffold to the point where they're not even doing the thinking. And
Right.
so it is sometimes uncomfortable to, you have to be vulnerable, right? To really share your thinking, your developing thinking on something. And so
Mm-hmm.
I
100%.
definitely says allow us to do that.